and your children are turned into mindless vassals who now they look up to some twit instead of looking up to Thomas Jefferson or looking up to Nikola Tesla or looking up to Magellan. I mean, kids, Magellan's a lot cooler than Justin Bieber. He circumnavigated with one ship the entire planet. He was killed by wild natives before they got back to Portugal. And when they got back, there was only like 11 people alive of the 200 and something crew, and the entire ship was rotting down to the waterline. That's destiny. That's will. That's striving. That's being a trailblazer and explorer. Going into space, mathematics, quantum mechanics, the secrets of the universe. It's all there. Life is fiery with its beauty. It's incredible detail. Tuning into it. They want to shatter your mind talking about Justin Bieber.
Hello out there. We're on the air. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday. Is this thing still on? I don't know. Where are the ducks? I can hear them. I can hear the ducks quacking. There we go. Stop. Bye-bye. Catch you later, ducks. See you tomorrow. How's everybody doing today? This one's titled The Future of Bitcoin Lending. And it's going to be a good one, I think. We'll see. We got our good buddy Brandon coming on for our Monday morning show here. I should probably send him the link. But we'll get things started here. Let me just see where he's at right now. Where is Brandon? Yep. Okay, he's coming on right away. Okay, well, happy Monday. Cheers. Looks like we got a hot start over in the Rumbles. And you can join whenever. There we go. I'm going to get his email right now too. Easier than sending on Signal. There we go. Oh, I guess I freaking have it. Oh, well. It's Monday. It's Monday. Give us a break. Give us a break. Cheers. Oh, I was going to say cheers from the Central University of Northern Toronto, but the wrong way. That's where we are today. So that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the future of Bitcoin lending. This is a very interesting topic. Something I've thought about a lot, and I haven't really landed on a conclusion yet. So that's why I figured it'd be a good discussion, because usually when you got discussions, you have more ideas, different perspective, and you can get usually further than just by yourself on your own thinking. That's the power of a mastermind. That's what Napoleon Hill called a mastermind, where you bring two minds together and they form a new mind, where you can discover new ideas, new land. But anyways, I should give a couple shout outs here to our rednecks on Rumble, because they're buzzing over there this morning. Rumble is buzzing. And, I spent a little bit of time here on YouTube trying to dance around the algos and not say Rumble and show Rumble, but I just don't really care too much anymore. Rumble's been growing faster than YouTube, believe that or not, but it is the truth. We had definitely a head start on YouTube, and that's where still the majority of people hang out. But Rumble's the fastest horse in the race right now. So we got to give a lot of love to the people who have joined us on Rumble. And if you want to, just try it out. Try it out. See what your experience is like. We've had a lot of people who have switched over there in the last month or so, since we've been doing this on YouTube too. So shout out to our rednecks over there. And we got one right off the hop today. Praetorian, the golden whale himself. We're going to check out some rednecks right now. We're going to get the rednecks on screen. And if you wonder where the term rednecks come from, it's not a derogatory term at all. It's the members over in Rumble. You can see all the chats, if you're a member on Rumble, show up in red. So that's where the redneck comes from. But look at this. This is from our guy Praetorian 91, the Guardian. He sent a purple fiat zap this morning, $20. The Golden Whale Praetorian. He said, God bless. Have a fantastic motivational Monday and may all of your stacking goals be achieved. He usually puts kind regards at the end of that, but I guess he didn't today. Maybe that's just for his zaps. But thank you, Praetorian. That's very helpful. Very helpful for the channel. Appreciate that a lot, man. Thank you. We got Praetorian and we got Joshua, who decided that he would give a subscription. Who got it? Scotty boy. Josh would be happy about that it went to Scotty boy. He even said the sub better be going to you, Scotty. And it did. Scotty and Joshua are bros. Joshua, another golden whale over on Rumble. And I thought I saw another one right there. Look at that. Oh, no, I thought Marco was going to get that one. But it went to Lori. Listen, Lori. Sats and Sunsets, another golden whale. The castle builder himself, the Smith. He gifted a subscription over on Rumble as well. And Lori got it. So congrats, Scotty. Congrats, Lori. Thank you, Sats and Sunsets. Thank you, Josh. And thank you. Who's the other one? Joshua, Sats and Sunsets, and Praetorian. The boys showing up for Monday. Showing up for Monday. Love to see it. All right. Let me send this link over to Brandon. Let's get him on here. And let's get to humming. Let's get to humming. How about that? What do we got going on today? Lori says thank you to Sats and Sunsets. Cheers, boys. Oh, yeah, what's this? We got a couple of zaps, too. Oh, Praetorian. Praetorian said, probably won't make the live. Super busy. Thank you for everything. Kind regards, Praetorian. There he is right there. Praetorian the man. Praetorian with a fiat zap and a real zap this morning. I shouldn't say that. Fiat zaps are real, too, because we still got payments to make in fiat here. So thank you. Thank you, Praetorian. Got a couple more here as well. We got Letha the icon as well, showing up this morning. She's over on the Noster stream. She said, good morning, David T, Josh, Scotty, and the gang. And Letha sent a shot of espresso as well. Thank you, Letha. And I thought I saw one more here too. Joshua, another big one. The king himself. What does Joshua have to say today? Joshua says, Luxter, I got to go to the gym. Won't be as engaging, rather lurking in the background like you. Meow twice for sacrificing one thing to gain another, eh? So Joshua with a King's app, with a Josh app. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that, man. Have a good workout. Have a good workout. I need to get a workout in today. Today is Monday, so I will be definitely working out today. I didn't get any workouts in on the weekend, though. We had a busy weekend here. We had some friends and family over for Mother's Day. Big shout out to the mothers out there, by the way. Huge shout out to the mothers. We got a lot of mothers in the chat here, I'd say. Not a lot, but probably more than an average Bitcoin stream, I'd say. So happy belated Mother's Day to all the great mamas out there. And thank you for all you do to the world, not just for your own, but nothing like a mother's love. Nothing like the mothers out there. So happy belated Mother's Day. Brandon's a bold guy. Oh, I already got his email address. I figured I did. Okay, link. There we go. Let's get her shared here. Let's get Brandon on. And let's chat. Let's discuss. Let's see what's going on today in the life of Brandon. There we go. Just sent, buddy. Okay. Well, he'll get here when he gets here. We'll keep the train rolling. Let's check on some chats. The captain's here bright and early. Good morning, Captain. How we doing, man? How the heck are we? First in the chat today, not too far behind Praetorian. We got Jake, 21 hats. Look at that nice new hat. Ooh, can't wait to get my hands on one of those. Can't wait to get my hands on one of those. Sats and Sunsets, Ginger, Scotty Boy. Is this the right place for late night ducks? Yes. Joshua says, good morning, Rumble. Remember to smash the like, comment, and get on to Noster, eh? There's a man who knows what he's talking about. There's the sub. There it is. Lori's here. Good morning, Lori. Susan, a.k.a. Susan. Good morning. Sketchucation, Rich. Happy Monday. Susan's got some ducks in there for the ducks. Kev Keith, happy Monday. Is this the right place to stack sats? Yes, you know that. That's what we do. That's what we do. I see some zaps from Scotty Boy, too. He's active in the Noster today. Marco's here. 1943 Marco says, good morning. Good morning. What is a duck's favorite snack? Quackers. Scotty says, you, Sunton sets, you quack me up. And look at there. Look at this. Josh at the gym, on Noster zapping, on Rumble giving memberships, and on YouTube commenting, checking in. That's why we call him the king. Antonis says, do we talk about CoffeeZilla latest episode? Happy Monday. Yeah, I talked about that on, when was that, Friday? Thursday, maybe. No, Friday, because it came out Thursday. I even shared the clip of it on Saturday on the channel. So you should be able to find that. I think I titled it CoffeeZilla versus Bitcoin. Mark is here. The boys, Mark, Bob, and Stewie. Good morning. And Mark also sent a zap over in the Noster stream for the 6.5 sat zap. Says good morning. Good morning. Scotty Boy, let's get through some of Scotty Boy's 99ers here. He says, the ducks are swimming. I repeat, the ducks are swimming. And Scotty Boy said, good news is I'm nearly done with my search for the Bitcoin servers. David T's over in the Noster chat. He sent a David T zap himself and said, good morning. Good morning, David T. Good to see you. Scotty Boy saying hello, and Sats and Sunsets with 21 sats. Nice number there for show number 21 today. Show 21. Cheers. Good morning, Noster. Henry says, good morning and sorry. Guy knows what he's talking about. Julian, good morning. Man, I'm almost done this freaking coffee already. I need to slow it down. Slow it down. Camille is here. Good morning, Camille. Lauren's here. Good morning, Lauren. Good morning, Buck52. The boys, Philly. Holy cow. Polly. In the future, Bitcoiners will be the underground's scruffy-faced, good-looking TV sci-fi cave-dwelling rebels with BTC laser rifles. Wow, what a vision. What a vision for the future, Polly. Bitcoiners will be the underground, scruffy-faced, good-looking TV sci-fi cave-dwelling rebels with BTC laser rifles. Love that. Kev's here. Kev had a new video yesterday. Make sure you go check it out if you haven't yet. He's got a YouTube channel called 21. I think it's called 21 Sat Street, right, Kev? 21 Sat Street. Let's check it out. Let's check it out. Yeah, Philly says, why wait till the future? Let's do that now. Let's do that now. I agree. Why wait? Where's 21 Sat Street here? There he is right there. 21 Sat Street. Oh, shit. This thing screws with me because you got that symbol in there. I always think there's a link attached to it, but that should work. That should get you to the Bitcoin channel called 21 Sat Street. Maybe I'll share his new video too. Go ahead, check that out. Our guy Kev talking about the Bitcoin gold rush. Share. Copy. Is this going to work? Yep, there you go. There's the new video. Marco, Lauren says, smash that like. Amen. James, good morning. A flu Ralph. Ralph Is this supposed to be Ralp or Ralph? Because those are two quite different words. Ralph or Ralp? I don't know. Let me know. But we got our guy here. He's here. He has arrived. How's he doing today?
So good. So good. So good.
It's Monday.
It's Monday. Another week. Feels like we just did this, Jor. I don't know how time is just flying. Time is flying.
Why is it?
Because time doesn't exist. That's why. I don't think. Well, extending our conversation from last week with in eternity, time is a fabrication for human beings, so we don't lose our mind. Basically, we have something to peg to.
Hey, have you ever heard the theory on 369, the portals into the universe?
Briefly, like I've heard of it, but I don't know it.
We covered it a little bit last week, and it basically talked about the 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8 being the constant loop flesh circuit, and then the 369 being connected to the spiritual realm.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it says that I don't know. I'll have to send you the video, but it's quite interesting because I think you've heard that as well. That if you can understand the 369, you hold the keys to the universe. Tesla said that. But the way it was explained, basically, there's portals throughout the day, and it, to me, more than anything else, it reminded people that there's a physical realm and there's a spiritual realm, and you basically have to remember to enter the spiritual portal.
Yeah.
I think it was 6 times a day.
Yep. But yeah, it's so true. It's unfortunately, yeah, just one of these things where like our human nature, we've just been dumbed down to all these senses, right? It goes back to school, and people laugh. Like I was just on Robin's podcast last week, and I don't know I think it was Robin's podcast, or maybe it was BTC Mastermind that we were all doing last Tuesday, or maybe it was this one. I can't remember, but one of the streams, I was just talking about like my answer is always coming back to school, because it's like government run compulsory schooling. Like I love learning, but I can't stand education. I can't stand school. And that's very confusing to so many people. This is like the average person just like they balk at that. They're like, oh, you're homeschooling their kids, or, like, what do you mean you hate school? Or like, oh, you didn't do well in school. And it's like, well, I was a grade school all-star. Like I was with all the genius kids in elementary all the way up through like middle school. And then as high school got going, and my dad was always questioning things. My dad was a doctor. My dad's an optometrist. He's an eye doctor. But he was very libertarian. My dad's very, very smart. He's more of like he's like astronaut level smart, in the sense of like very book smart, but more or less deductive reasoning, problem solver, inventive smart. And that's like, problem solving. Oh shoot, there's a fire on the space station. Like we got to fix this somehow with the stuff right here. That's the level my dad's brain works at. I'm nowhere near that. I have a fraction of that. And so they pushed modern education because that's what they knew. While at the same time, my dad was always yelling at the TV, questioning the news, everything, very libertarian, very conservative by nature, student of history, stuff like that. So to me, it's government-run compulsory schooling, where it's the natural next evolution, next step of, why was I so good with these base fundamental things as a kid growing up? It's probably because my dad was smart in that sense. So like math, I would beat all the kids, the geniuses that were still geniuses. Like they were like, oh, we're working at NASA now. Where like I just diverted, went off into the hockey world, probably like in high school and college, where those kids, like I would beat them. And if we did times tables, the test, you get up in front of the class and you do the competition, and like, oh, we're going to do the times tables. We're going to, 9 plus 9 or 9 times 9, all that geography, capitals. Like I would hammer, I would win all these competitions. And then by the time we got to high school, it made no sense to me. Like none of these things made sense. It was just like, why aren't we learning about money? Oh, you're going to learn on the job, right? All the things we've been told. And it was like, what am I doing here? And so like you just start, and especially for a boy too, right? Like, and you know this, like for a boy, it's like, how do you sit there for 8 hours a day? And like I'd be sleeping half the time because of hockey. I'd be so tired the next day. And fortunately, I slept through a lot of things probably in high school and in college because I knew that they were useless. I mean, I literally had like some women's studies in college, and you know, different stuff. You're like, this is just so, what is this doing for my life? And it was just like, hey, how can we emasculate men? How can we make everyone conform, comply, obey, not use their brain, not critically think, not use their deductive reasoning? I mean, all of these things where, so my answer to all this, my whole long story is that we're unable to think outside the box and really invent stuff, create stuff. You and I have absolutely talked about this on this show, the Monday mornings, of we live in a modern dark age right now, which kind of leads into our talk today of the future of Bitcoin lending. And you look at the sound money era of the 1800s and the Industrial Revolution, and how there's massive explosion for wealth and deflation, like prices coming down, but really more importantly, just human wealth explosion and higher standard of living. Inventing things so our standard goes up. And that's where we've seen anything but that. We've seen the opposite in the last 100 years, where it gets masked by like fiat money created an app, but like it didn't. Where's the railroad? Where's the Jetsons? You know, again, like this is things we've touched on before. That's why I think this talk is so pertinent right now, and everyone has a hard time. I mean, even Bitcoiners. I mean, we all have a hard time because it's so. Like I was studying some of this stuff. It's very funny you said this, because obviously the CoffeeZilla and Jeff Walton thing. And sorry, I'm jumping all around.
No, you're good. You're good. That's what these are about.
Yeah. It's a mind dump. It's like, get your brain ready for the weekend and let's get it going, right? You're thinking of stuff all weekend. And so we all talked about some stuff with CoffeeZilla and Jeff last week. Obviously, I got into this debate with Mike Green a couple weeks ago, where again, that's more. I didn't know, the whole point wasn't to debate. And so I take a punch or two, and I realize like, oh, this guy wants to debate, but it's an interview show. Like I don't want to jump down the guy's throat. So you're trying to like wade between like, do I want to start debating this guy on my show? That's not the reason I came on, or that's not the reason I had him on. And so all that being said, I've been going back and thinking about these things, and like, okay, well, sure, like I love it. Like I love getting punched in the face. Like I'm not afraid of that. That's why I posted it. Like I don't care about getting punched in the face. Like how can I get better? That's the only thing I care about, is us getting better. And so I've been going back and looking at my own convictions and writing some stuff on this, so it's funny you said that this morning. And it's just wild, and it just reconvicted me even more, of course, of like, holy cow, like we've had these times in history, whether it was the Byzantine Empire, I think Hong Kong, even right now, just some of the things I was researching with the different invention people know that they've obviously been very forward thinking as of late. The 1800s in America, there's these different time periods when you're on these sound money standards that you had this massive explosion in wealth for the people. And again, not currency units per se, but it's the wealth of the society and the goods and services that you now have. And so, again, we've been looking at the Jetsons' future, and people have been like, where is it? And it just like, it stopped in 1913 basically, or maybe even the 30s, but it was like the inertia of everything just lasted for another like 50 years. So now it's like sputtering out, and now everyone's like, well, where is it? And it's like, we don't have it, guys. Like this is because we've chosen the chalice. We drank from the chalice of easy money. Now we got all the sins of eating the apple, which again, this is something you and I have talked about multiple times here. And it's just so hard to see because it's so disconnected. It's not that immediate loop of like, hey, I'm playing Russian roulette. Well, that's immediate feedback loop. It's very easy to see.
Yeah.
But when you're playing in money, like it's not. I mean, it takes a century. It takes 50 years or whatever. And it's completely abstracted. And the average person has no idea what's going on. So anyway, all that being said, I was just smirking when you sent me that this morning, because I was like, yeah, I've just been writing, different angles of this, writing some different articles on this, and trying to re-examine my own, hey, maybe Mike's right. Let's take his angle. Let's, all these different things. So I love it.
You have to.
Yeah, you have to. That's why we're Bitcoiners. I mean, like I was gold and silver guy. I mean, we've told these stories before, right? Like we're, politics guys and, gold and silver guys, you were in the accounting world and numbers and math. And it's like, you're on the Titanic, and we got off the Titanic because we were trying to humble ourselves. You get punched in the face a few times, and then you're like, oh shoot, I'm in a fight. I'm in a monetary fight. I'm in a information war, whatever. And then you're like, so you have to, the only reason we're here as a Bitcoiner, if you're a Bitcoiner, it's because you've humbled yourself and realized, hey, part of my life is a lie. So.
Well, yeah. And I mean, going through school and going through the CPA program itself, you're kind of building towards this peak at some point in the future where you're going to be like a senior manager or a partner of the firm. And it takes a lot to kind of derail yourself off that because you have so much time into it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that was the hard thing for me. Like it was 2 years of college, 2 years of university, 2.5 years of the CPA program, plus kind of working full time. And it was just like, okay, well, I see what's happening here. I can either ignore it and just kind of cross my fingers for the rest of my life that things aren't going to go as I kind of expect them to, but also I'm going to just hate my life knowing how the system works and being part of that system. I think that was one of the things that Jeff Booth said that really caught me is like, he looked at himself and said, okay, I understand what's happening here, but I'm still spending all my time in the fiat world, strengthening the fiat world. I need to get the hell out of that. I need to start building in this future. And so, yeah, that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. And really, I was going to kind of go through, I had an idea to go through AI, ask a couple different AIs about what it would look like. But I figured that would kind of derail the conversation a little bit because then we kind of gravitate towards that. So I figured it'd be better to just kind of discuss it, bounce some things off each other. And then maybe at the end of it, we could see how it compares to what an AI would say. So I didn't even ask the question. I didn't even go to the website. I just figured we could kind of talk through it. So maybe just to set the stage a little bit. I mean, I'd like to get your input on this too, because obviously you're the one who was in the conversation. But that was one of Mike's big pushbacks was like, how do you have credit? How do you have lending if the whole world's on a Bitcoin standard? And so I've thought about this a lot over these last 2 or 3 years, especially after listening to so much Saylor, after hearing Bitcoin's pristine collateral, after really wrapping my head around that idea. I've kind of tried to think this through, but I've never really came to a real solid conclusion on it in terms of like what this is going to look like. So maybe just going back to Mike Green, the conversation you had with him, what did he say? And I guess, what was your thoughts? Because I wish that you would have spent a little bit more time talking about that, but I know that there was a lot going on. I know that it kind of came out of left field that he was disagreeing with you. And then
I would have loved him more prepared for it. Yeah. Just to go like, I would love to have him back on at some point and we can just talk strictly Bitcoin lending or like that 30-minute part, because it was an hour and a half long. Yeah. And so like we completely got derailed. Yeah. Because I try to keep him around an hour-ish. And it's like we completely got derailed basically. And so it ended up being an hour and a half episode because we had this debate mid-conversation about just the economy and what's going on. You know, that's what I wanted to. And part of the reason, like I've been trying to have people out there that are outside the Bitcoin echo chamber a little bit. And that's why I had Mike on in the first place, because it's funny because this is exactly what we just started talking about in the beginning of this chat, which is we try to check ourselves. We try to, and again, my lesson learned is of like, okay, if you have someone that is maybe a little bit more combative by nature, and I kind of knew that, and that's why I had him on, but I wasn't prepared or looking to get into a fight with them. It was just like, hey, let's get your thoughts on the world. And I think it will help some Bitcoiners maybe convict themselves more, or maybe, hey, maybe there's a blind spot, you know, something like that. And it really went down that rabbit hole in that sense. So again, like lesson learned on my part. And that was like an error that was the error from me of just being like, okay, here's my script. Like I'm going to run through, see what he thinks of the world from his perspective right now. And then he started just like attacking Bitcoin. I was like, oh, like, and it took me a punch or two until I realized like, no, he really wants to like go at it with me. Like he really, and he didn't want to let me talk either. That part of the problem is he didn't really want to let me talk. He would just kind of cut me off. So I'd love to like talk to him again about it and just be like, hey, let's have a debate about this. You know, so that's the part I feel bad about for Bitcoiners, honestly. Like, I just feel like, yeah, I didn't put up like a great fight because that wasn't the point. So I didn't have him on my channel just to like beat him up. And you know, so.
I also think that like, if I'm thinking about two kind of debates that have happened recently, and somebody in the chat was asking about CoffeeZilla a couple minutes before you jumped on. But if I look at those two debates, we'll call them, even though yours wasn't really a debate, I don't know if theirs was going to be either, honestly. Like I don't know if either of them really thought that. Jeff definitely did. He was ready to go.
He was ready. Yeah. Yeah.
But when I look at those two like side by side, I feel like Mike actually he wasn't really speaking over you. He wasn't getting emotional like CoffeeZilla was. Right. But he just wasn't like going along with what you were trying to say. No. Like, I think that he knew what you were saying, but he would like find a way to kind of dance around it and come at from a real educated, arrogant stance of like, well, what do you mean by this? Do you mean this or this or this? Yeah. He knew what you were saying. He just, he didn't want to address the issue.
Yes.
So Whereas CoffeeZilla, he was just jumping all over the place. He was yelling, he was screaming at his hands everywhere.
Yes.
He wouldn't let Jeff speak, and Jeff still owned him. But yeah, that was kind of what I took away from it. But yeah, one of the things that Mike really was hung up on was, I mean, both those guys, right? Like whether it's Mike or CoffeeZilla, you could have a 4-hour debate with those guys, but because they don't believe in Bitcoin, because they haven't put in the time to understand Bitcoin, it's very difficult to get them over that hump, whatever it is.
Yep. It's the you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? Like and that's the thing, like because I watched it back once or twice, because at first I was like, dude, like I was just in a bar fight and like I just got my ass kicked. And like I watched it again once or twice after that, and I was like, actually, like I didn't really like, yeah, he got a lick or two in on me because I just was completely unprepared to have a debate. And he's a very smart guy, like not taking away, he's probably 170 IQ guy. I mean, and that's kind of the problem at times, right? Like you get these guys like a Peter Schiff, like, you know, like they're just intellectually very smart. And like what you just mentioned, when you have a sunk cost fallacy mixed with really high IQ, like all this, it creates this concoction of hubris, you know, like maybe that's the best way to say it, where it can lead you down the wrong roads where you're not checking yourself as much. So, yeah, I mean, and the big thing too, because when I watched it back, because like I said, you know, I like, okay, let's talk about the Roman Empire, but like, then I U-turned very quickly because I realized he's just going to play gotcha. Like he's just, no matter what I said, he's just going to, and I'm like, well, okay, well, I'm not an expert in it. He's like, well, then why did you bring it up? I'm like, because you're just going to play gotcha. But then like, I couldn't even answer some of the questions because he wouldn't let me. He would just kind of jump in. And again, he's the guest. I don't want to like, the whole point wasn't to like run him over. So at that point, I'm still like, okay, are we going to U-turn out of this? Or like, what do you want to do here? And I'm trying to figure out, you know, and stay calm in the sense of, you know, he's calm. So I'm matching him. Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, well, where do you want to go with this? So then, because I have my script, I'm like, okay, we're going to the next thing. Then he said something else. I'm like, oh, okay. So then I went back into it because I have a little bit of the Marty McFly, you know, don't call me chicken in me, where it's like, if you call me chicken, like I'm going to go, we're going to go, like we're going to get into a tilt. Like I'm going to drop the gloves and like, we're going to start going. But it took me a minute or two to like, okay, like, I guess we're really going to do this. So anyway, yeah, for all the, George, everyone loves the hockey analogies, right? So, so anyway, the big thing. So the thing when I watched it back is once you know, that after that first minute or two or whatever it was, I tried to start asking him 3 or 4 different ways what are the incentives of the system, because that's where I was like, Mike, we agree on the high level meta of what you're saying of like we need to educate people or people need to be better educated. Like I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah. And so the big thing obviously Mike was saying was lending, which we'll obviously talk about, but he kept saying like we need to educate people. People need to be better educated. The dollar is just there to destroy debt. That's all it's there to do. It's not there to store value. And I was like, well, yes, theoretically, yes, you are right. Like on surface, the dollar is, you're right. It says it right on the thing. It's a Federal Reserve note. But I was like, it doesn't have to be that way. And that's where like he just wouldn't accept some of those premises where like, well, this is what the government's doing, so I'm just going to take it over, bend over and take it from the government no matter what. I'm like, well, I don't believe that. Like I'm more revolutionary than you are. Like I don't believe, we have all kinds of history showing us like someone can just come in and be like, nope, we're not doing that anymore. And so that to me is where like a person can put themselves on a Bitcoin standard, a company, a country, you know, and that's where he just didn't want to get that. He just wanted to kind of fight more about stuff than actually have a conversation. And then the education part, I kept asking him, Mike, we agree on education, but I thought about this for a long time. I thought about this with George Gammon, which I actually brought up in the episode multiple different times, 4 or 5 years ago on Spaces, going back and forth. And I was like, you know, George, you know, Mike, how do you propose we do this? What you're saying, doing said thing requires us. This is why I brought up school in the beginning, because this requires us to rip the school apparatus away from the state. They have the infinite currency printer that can then educate endlessly 8 hours a day for 12 years in a row, every human. How do you propose we out propagandize the state? Go. And they can't answer that. None of them can answer that. The incentives of the system, the architecture of deceit of fiat makes it impossible to educate the people the way they want to educate people. Just so it's like it's downstream. So like they're trying to do this thing downstream where it's like, guys, there's an oil spill at the top of the river and you're trying to you got a garden down 10 miles downstream and you're like wondering why all the plants are like, we just need to fertilize them more. We need to educate
exactly. That's a great analogy.
Yeah, it's like, guys, like, and that's where I don't know what it is, because they are very smart. I don't know if they've they just don't believe. They don't have faith. They don't have faith in other humans. They're too black-pilled. They haven't done the work. They haven't, taken things to their logical end conclusions. I don't know what the answer is necessarily. And that's, again, I would love to, have these guys on more. I'm trying to, get George Gammon on at some point again, but maybe in a few months having, Mike Green come back on or whatever it is. But that to me is like, no one can explain that. And for us, like, we sit back, you're trying to humble yourself and be like, okay, well, why has the system been failing? Why isn't this working? And to me, it's really the only logical conclusion you can get to, which is the incentives of the system don't align with humans' freedom, actual education, because it's over here with the state, and it's a propaganda machine. And I think, Nolan Bowerley talks about this better than anyone for years, which is, fiat is a political currency because it's fiat, it's by dictate. And so the walls that, or the foundation that undergirds the system are political, political currency, but it's the political system and the education system. So the media, the culture, all these nodes in the system have to propagate that fiat lie, or that propaganda lie. And otherwise it completely implodes. And this goes back to Iran. We've talked about this in, I don't know what streams we've talked about this together, but Iran or Gaddafi or Saddam Hussein, or in America, it's the $600, we got to know where it's at. We got to know where $10,000 went if you take it out of the bank. That's domestically capital controls, type behavior. And it's also the capital controls outside the country, where if you go outside the dollar, we're coming after you. And that's, otherwise, who would use the currency, Jor? I mean, this is a rhetorical question. Who would use it, guys? Right? Everyone in the chat. No one would use a currency that steals from you unless you are forced at the barrel of a gun. And that's the thing, again, coming full circle, the education part with all this, like, Mike, George Gammon, the Peter Schiffs, they can't answer / won't answer. And so it drives you mad, because you're like, guys, like, what are we doing here? So.
Yeah. I mean, I think I mentioned this on a stream last week, but I said, like, if you had a piece of paper and on the left side, it had the characteristics of the fiat dollar. It didn't say fiat at the top or anything. It just had all the characteristics of what the fiat dollar is. And on the right side, in a separate column, you had all the characteristics of Bitcoin. And it also didn't say Bitcoin at the top. My guess is that 100% of people would choose, if the question was, which one would you rather use? 100% of people would choose Bitcoin. And I agree, like, there's still the system in place that kind of intimidates people, brainwashes people, propagates people into thinking that that's the one that they need to use. But the thing that really bothers me is, like, okay, I get it. If you're too scared to kind of go down that road, just don't say anything about it, right? It's the people who, like, fight against it. Right. Fight against the people who are trying to use this, even though it's going to hurt, even though it's going to be very painful, even though they could get into a lot of trouble. There's people out here who are trying to use the better currency. It's not even close. Like, that's why I say 100% of people would choose Bitcoin, because it's not like 99.9. It's not even close. But it's the people like that who are continue to strengthen it without even realizing what they're doing and who they're fighting against, and the people they're fighting against, what they're trying to accomplish here. And so it's like, I don't know. It really bothers me. It kind of pisses me off. But one thing you said there was that people like this are very high IQ. They obviously know history very well, but they haven't really thought about, like, they haven't gone through the thought experiment of, like, thinking through things, right?
Yes.
And so that's kind of what I think we should get into the lending part of things. So with Bitcoin lending, kind of when I thought about it last night, I was thinking, like, okay, in the future, do we need stablecoins? Do we need banks? What is their role in this lending scenario? Because how does it really make sense for somebody with Bitcoin, if we all agree that Bitcoin is pristine collateral? If I'm holding Bitcoin, but I need a loan, I don't want to sell my Bitcoin, what do? Do I go to a bank? Do I go to a private lender? And do I give them my Bitcoin for more Bitcoin? Or, like, what is that? What's the setup there? Have you kind of thought about this at all?
Yeah,
I'm sure you have.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about it a fair amount, and that's what's, like, funny. It's ironic about this Mike Green video, because again, we started trying to go down. I was like, well, I think it started because he was like, well, what happens if someone loses it? And I'm like,
right, yeah, that was, like, his main argument there.
Yeah,
and then you kind of went down that road, but instead of focusing on, like, the lending part and how that really has nothing to do with it, right? Or like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, he was like, well, if you lose the hashtags, like, what happens? Or if I lose
hashtag, yeah.
And he's like, well, no, like, what did he say? He was just about, I think he mentioned lending somehow, or no, I said, well, then you lose it. I was like, it's just a pro rata donation to the system. And then,
Yeah.
oh, and this was the other thing, George, too. The other thing was he had a very hard time understanding the whole, and this is where I'm going to take the side of he has just not done the homework, because he is very smart. But these are some of these little things where, like, if you listen to Peter Schiff, he conflates Bitcoin and crypto. Like his big kryptonite is, you can tell once you start talking to him. Like if you get on Spaces with him, like I remember like a year or two ago, I was on Spaces with him. And once he starts talking for more than 10, 20, 30 seconds, he's like conflating things. And you're like, okay, like I can tell you just haven't done the work, because he's a brilliant guy. And so anyway, he was saying that, now I forgot what I was going to say. We were talking about lending.
The losing keys.
Yeah, losing keys.
Because what would losing keys have to do with it? Like, let's actually think through this.
Oh yeah, so the pro rata donation. So his whole thing was that he could not get around the fact that when everything's mined, or there's only 1 million Bitcoin left to be mined, right? He couldn't get around that fact that there will be people in the future that they have no chance to get Bitcoin. That was his thinking. And I was like, whoa, like, what are you talking about? I was like, this is where he cut me off again. I was like, my parents, and they started talking over me. As soon as I started answering, he just started talking over me, and then I let him go. And so I know people weren't super happy with that, but again, it wasn't set up to be a debate. But I digress. And so I was like, well, my parents came over, only 100 years ago, or my grandparents, we were late to the party. We didn't get Malibu real estate. I didn't get New York City real estate. I don't have a trust fund to my name. I don't have, I didn't get that. It's like, you're not just giving. And like, these guys act like currency is just like rains down equally. Like it's like a gun in a garden, and like rain just falls on everyone equally. Like, oh, you're born. So like he was acting like, when you're in a fiat system, everyone has an equal chance at that currency. Like we all get it. Like it just sprayed you come out of the mother's womb, and it's like, boom, you're sprayed with a currency gun. Like, here it is. Like, here's some Malibu real estate.
Because it's debt.
Literally. And that's what I said to him in the thing. And his head almost exploded. I was like, no, it's actually a debt obligation. As soon as you're born, the currency actually is the social security number. It's actually your debt. Here you go, debt per citizen. He's like, no, it's not. He's like, he couldn't, like, his mind exploded. I think that's when actually I got to go look back again, when it kind of started going off the rails a little bit to a degree. But that's kind of, I think that really kind of set him off the edge a little bit, where it was just like you could tell he had never really thought about that before. And so the system is completely inverted from what he thinks it is. And it's like, dude, go look at usadebtclock.org. It doesn't say, hey, trust fund per person. It says debt per person and debt per taxpayer. That's it. So you were born immediately, you get a social security number. It's there to hang the debt on you and say, here you go. And so I was like, none of us are born just like getting a Malibu real estate sprayed at us just because we're born, whatever. It's the opposite. And he could not understand that. And that was just like kind of set him off the rails a little bit. And so that to me is where you have this system that's completely flipped upside down. And the dollar, again, going back to this thing we were saying, the dollar only has value because people believe it does, or there's capital controls, or these things that happen where in a sound money system, this is what's really hard, because this is where, so now coming back to what you were just saying, I've thought about this, many times throughout the years, but even now, admittedly, still hard for me to grasp and grok. I've written about this. I've been writing about it lately. In my mind, George still has a very hard time understanding this. But the thing is,
and I think that, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, the thing is, it doesn't mean just because we can't understand it well, which almost no one can. Even people that have written about it, we've thought about it. You and I, we've gone down these. It's still hard because none of us have grown up in the system. Yeah. So it is like, I don't blame anyone for not, and because I'm a numbers guy too. Like, you're a numbers guy. Like, it's still hard for me to kind of grok just because we've never lived in it. But the thing, and I think, again, this is why we talk about Monday, is the faith part of it too. Faith is part of it. I've even went down the AI to say, like, again, what are examples in history where we've been on sound money standards, but also, like, how wouldn't this work? Because you do go into a world where everything is getting less expensive. Costs are going down. So the standard of living is going up. But yeah, are there people out of jobs? Maybe. Yeah. But if things are very abundant, or you only, like, for example, if you only have the best companies getting funded, what happens to the other, if one company out of 100 is getting funded instead of all 100 like we do now, it's just spraying currency into the air, someone's taking that loss somewhere. So even though you think, oh, well, these other 99, they got funded somehow, and look, they've got some employees that they're paying. Yeah, but you are stealing that purchasing power from who? The 50% of society, whatever the number is, 40%, 60% of people who don't hold assets. That's the
Yes.
that's the thing that's destroying society. So we're over here rewarding asset old holders, arbitrarily saying, hey, you inventors, entrepreneurs, asset holders, and so we're eroding away the foundation of society, even though it looks good. And this is where we come back now full circle to the Jetson thing. I'm kind of giving like a high level meta overview of this, but this is why we don't have the Jetson society, because you have this hollowing out. WTF happened since 1971, and obviously started before that, but it really sped up in 1971. We've seen the complete decline of society. No, there's no fathers in homes, the decline of the family. We have more hospital administrators, more lawyers, more people, more Wall Street people, like all these people that don't provide for actual society. And so now the manufacturing's gone, like all these things are gone. So now you said, okay, we're going to put it on Wall Street and entrepreneurs and all that, which is great. I'm an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur, like that's awesome. But what about the rest of society? And so and that's the part where Mike Green, now coming really full circle, he was like, well, you just got to educate people on capitalism more. That's just capitalism. Like those people, basically that 50%, they need to get their head out of their ass. I'm like, Mike, I agree. But the problem is these people won't. Like the poor will always be among you. Like this is not how society works. You're now saying I'm arbitrarily going to pick that 50% of society or that 10% or 20%. The rest of you, good luck. You should get smarter. You should get better. And the beauty of Bitcoin is you don't have to choose between the two. Only in fiat do you have to choose between, well, it's capitalism or socialism, whatever. That's not Bitcoin. When you're on a sound money standard, you can put voluntarism. You can put, probably a lot of different structures on top of on the money, the foundation that you build. And instead, we have a society where we've built the economic system on no foundation. It's just literally on the sand. It's just on quicksand. And now it's just been completely eating away and eroding. And we're now, reaping the vestiges of what's left. So that to me, I hope like that's kind of like my meta high level thoughts of all of it. And we can talk obviously a little more about the lending, but that's just like all the things I've been thinking about. And anyway,
well, see, this is kind of before you got on here. I was like, I've thought about this a lot. I haven't came to a real good conclusion on it, but I figured it'd be a good conversation to have with you because I am a big believer in like the mastermind, where you have two different people come together, two different perspectives, and you form this new kind of thing. And actually, as you were speaking there, I kind of had a little bit of a moment where I thought of like two things. Number one is like the reason when Brad and I talk about this stuff, we've been in this for a long time. Not like say time wise. I know we've both been in here for years, but just like total energy put into this system more than anything else, right?
mm-hmm.
And so it makes a ton of sense where if we've spent this much time in this system, Bitcoin, thinking about this stuff, and we still can't really come to a logical conclusion to it, how the hell would anybody out there who hasn't spent more than an hour thinking about Bitcoin, how would they ever know what this is going to look like? So that's the first part. But the other one too is like going back to the lending. So if you're in the future and you're going to the bank or a private lender, and we're living in a hyper Bitcoinization world, and you're going to them and saying, here's my Bitcoin, give me some more Bitcoin. So why does that make sense? And why doesn't it make sense? Because it just seems like you're kind of, it's like one for the other. Why not just use the Bitcoin that you have?
And this is where everyone's brain shuts off. This is where my brain shut off for a long time. And
but
it's very hard to get around. Yeah.
And the next part I was going to say is like, why do people need lending?
Mm-hmm.
It's because they don't want to sell their asset. Right? Like if we all agree that Bitcoin is this pristine asset, why would I be lending against my Bitcoin for more Bitcoin? It's because I don't want to sell my Bitcoin. Right? So that's, and when you think about it, it's a totally different world right now where why do people use lending now? It's because the fiat system has made things so expensive that they don't have the ability to pay for those things. Well, two parts of this. Number one, consumerism, like just selling things that we need all these things, which we don't. But the other part of it too is that the fiat printer, the fiat system has made things so expensive where people don't have enough value stored that they need to steal that value from their future. Right. And so like, and whatever it's for, you could say you want it for a house or a new car or to start a business, but it's still like you're going to the bank without any sort of real collateral and you're just getting money. That's not really lending. And somebody else on the other end of that who printed those units is making bank. They haven't done anything. Like you were talking about actually adding value to the world. The banks don't really do anything other than they just facilitate the system to go on even longer. Right? So when you think about that, it's like you go to the bank, you get money to buy something. It's still just money. It's still just fiat. It's still the same system. Why couldn't that happen with Bitcoin? Where if I had one Bitcoin sitting on my personal balance sheet, but I didn't want to sell it, I didn't want to part with it. I just wanted to get a new, I wanted to expand my business. I wanted to buy a new laptop, a new this, that. Why would I sell my Bitcoin when I could just go to a private lender and say, hey, here's some collateral. I need some currency, some value that I could use now to buy this. So I think it actually does make sense to me that even if it is just going to the bank with Bitcoin to get more Bitcoin, because whether it's fiat dollars, whether it's tokenized gold, whether it's Bitcoin, it's all just value that you're transferring to each other. That's the whole thing.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what the unit's called, but the system that fiat has
you're pulling it
created,
from the future regardless. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
You're still stealing from your own future regardless. Yes. But hopefully in that world, prices aren't going up. They're actually falling down.
Correct.
Right.
Which is huge for everyone.
Right.
But and this is the other thing. This is why it's a very underappreciated, but it's you don't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you. This is what, again, is very hard to grok for even Bitcoiners, like truly us looking into the future, and then everyone else. Very hard because, again, we haven't experienced it, so it makes it tough. But this is where in both systems you're pulling from the future. However, the fiat system, you have the added benefit of maybe rug pulling other people in the future and socializing the losses and privatizing the gains, meaning you're incentivized to take out debt, whether it's good or bad. And I think this goes back to Robert Kiyosaki, and the good debt would be debt that you take out to buy productive assets that pay you cash flow. Bad debt would be, hey, I'm going to go get some jet skis, wave runners, whatever, four-wheelers, whatever. That's bad debt. That doesn't pay you. So now you're just getting further and further into debt. And so that to me is where the rubber meets the road here, where the existing system we're in fiat, you have the ability to get bailed out by someone for some reason. Look, we're seeing student loans, bad debt. Well, people might get bailed out. What happens there? The other 50% take the losses, socialize the losses. Where in this new world, so like say you took out $100,000 loan and it's 10%, but it's 8% inflation. Like you can see things get compressed or they get expanded in this fiat system where the return isn't really what you think. Like the 10% might be different, where the person taking out the loan, if it's 8% inflation, but it's 10% interest on the loan, well, it's really 2%, or something like that, right? So, but in Bitcoin, that 10%. So if you take out one Bitcoin and 10%, it's 1.1 Bitcoin. So you need to pay 1.1 Bitcoin back, and it's just the numbers. It is what it is. In saying all of that, there's a couple different routes we can take here. One of the routes, though, is I think the changing yourself is a huge part of this and changing society. Because what's going to happen going forward is that humans will decide, do I really want to consume all this garbage, or do I want to actually because at some point when there's 8 billion people on the network, obviously the network's not going to grow at 30% a year or 50% a year. Obviously it's going to grow at whatever it is, 5, 10, 11% a year, whatever the actual means of production growth is.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Right.
And that's what it compresses to. So now you're going to, like you just kind of alluded to, now it's like, well, hey, Jordan and I want to start a business actually, but only the best businesses will get funded. Now, at the same time, this is why it's so hard holding things in your head. Even if Jordan and I are unemployed or a business doesn't work, prices were still falling. We still have Bitcoin we saved up, and prices are still falling over here. Our life's getting better, standard living going up. But over here, we're trying to expand business, get a Bitcoin loan, and then we're hoping to create a business that actually works. Now, we are trying to make sure our business, when we do get it funded, if we do get it funded, because remember, the lender now is looking at your business and saying, hey, is this actually going to be a good business? Because I'm going to loan my Bitcoin out to these people. So now both sides of the transaction are having to do their due diligence. And this is why there won't be endless, ridiculous, OnlyFans accounts and all this stupid BS that we see now, just, DraftKings and all this garbage, because these are fake models. They're fake apps and fake models. Look for people in a fiat world. So now both parties, the lender and borrower, are looking at the investment and saying, hey, should we do this investment? Should we make this? While at the same time, again, your life is getting better on a Bitcoin standard because prices are going down, standard living is going up. So even if Jordan and I don't get funded and we're still on the street and we don't have a job or don't have a business that's working, we're still getting wealthier over time because the prices are going down in Bitcoin terms and our wealth is going up. And so that's what's so hard. That's why I mixed faith into this, because you can tell people that are very black-pilled or don't have faith, they have a very hard time grokking this. And they're just like, there's no way. And this is why people reach for communism and socialism and all these different things, because they just can't trust, God. They can't trust infinite being. They can't trust infinite intelligence. They can't trust that there's something bigger than them, that, I might not know it all. And again, I've even tried to check myself on this. Like, am I trying to go down the utopia route where, like, is it this easy? Like, can it play out like this? Can't just throw your sticks on the ice and you got to play the game. So in theory, it sounds great what Jor and I are talking about, and how does it work out in reality? And again, we have instances of the Byzantine, Empire. We have, the 1800s in America. We have instances where, and so this is part of it. Are there going to be people, and so I'll cut to the chase. I know people are thinking as well, what happens when there are a couple people that are hurting? Well, guess what? In that system, when people have much more wealth, you're incentivized to be more charitable. You have time to actually go to church, to actually have a community, to actually know your neighbor. So guess what? When John or Joe or Brandon are actually in the hard times, the people you've built community with, because you're not on the fiat hamster wheel anymore, guess what? Now those people know, oh, he really is on hard times. We can help him out. Or you are incentivized, like Mike Green thinks, in a fiat system, which is impossible. Oh, I'm cattle prodded to go actually go do something. So it separates the wheat from the chaff, meaning you were incentivized in a Bitcoin standard to actually get off your ass. Bitcoin changes you and go be productive for society. Or if you really are hurt, it's less than 1% of society, whatever. Those people will get help because everyone else is wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. The charitable giving of other people, the love, the attention, the energy, the capital, whatever it is, will then accrue to those people also that actually need help because you've built more community. You actually know your neighbor. You're not on the hamster wheel anymore. You don't have 3 jobs. It's like the whole thing. It's so hard. It's so hard, Jor. I mean, like there's so many aspects of this where it's like, and then every time you go down one rabbit hole, you have like 3 more branches that kind of go off that. So it's good old Bitcoin.
It's funny you say that because I was like, I had 2 or 3 things I wanted to touch on, and now I don't even know what they were because my head was going on 3 different spots there.
I'm sorry. That's why I don't blame Mike Green. Because I don't even know it all, right? Like none of us have lived this. None of us have actually experienced this. So how could I really know? And that's why I'm trying to test myself. How could Mike know? How could Jor know? How could anyone in the chat know? Like we don't know. We are speculating. And that's the thing. Like this is where I do empathize with Mike because I don't want to sound like this is communism, like it's some utopia and we're all going to be equal on earth. No, it's not that. It's not being.
That's what
equal.
I was going to say.
Yeah. Okay.
I was just going to say like, I don't think the world should be fair for everybody. I don't think everybody should have equal things.
Yep.
Right. Like that's one thing that Bitcoin's taught me really more than anything else is that if you want something, you have to earn it. And so like, that's not what we were taught in school. It's like, go get a job. This is your salary and you can have a pretty good life. They never said like, hey, the more valuable you are, the more stress you have on you, the more somebody relies on you, whether that's a customer or a company, the more you're going to get paid. Your rewards are in direct proportion to the service that you provide to others, right? That's really what it breaks down to. And I don't think that everybody should be fair. That wouldn't be a good world where if somebody was producing more, somebody was working harder, but they're getting the same as somebody else who's doing nothing. That's not a good society. And actually, that's where we are right now.
Might as well be
in fact, it's even worse than that, where the people who are working the hardest are actually getting squeezed the hardest, where the people who are doing nothing are getting the fattest because of how the system works. So I don't think that it ever should be completely fair. Let me rephrase that. I don't think everybody should have equal things, but I do think that it should be fair in the sense of everybody's playing by the same rules.
Yes. Even playing field. That's it. Right?
Exactly.
Like we're humans are the same. We're all equal. Playing field is equal, outcomes not. And that's the difference, right? That's
exactly.
That's it. So yeah.
And Bitcoin allows that, right? Because nobody's benefited from, since the very genesis block in Bitcoin, nobody's been given anything.
Right.
You want to get some Bitcoin,
Also
you either have to mine it with physical energy or you have to work for it with physical energy. And if you had some wealth built up from the past fiat system, you could put it into Bitcoin. But there's been no airdrops or there's been no Bitcoin printed and given out to friends and family. It's been fair from day one.
The only one, Jor, right? Like
only
currency, the fiat currencies are all, none of them can say that except Bitcoin. I mean, it's crazy. That's also understated too. That needs to be talked about more as well, I think, because that's what completely separates Bitcoin from every other, going back to Mike Green's thing of like thinking that people just get sprayed with currency, basically. Like, well, when Bitcoin's all mined, then you're shutting everyone else out of the system. It's like, what are you talking about? I mean, it's like, it's so nonsensical where it's like, that's every other existing system. You're next to the printer, you know, that the prince of, whoever, the Congo, guess what? You win. Everyone else loses. Bitcoin's the only system that is opposite of that. The completely fair. If you're going to design something that was completely fair to distribute to people, how would you do it? This is the only way conceivably possible to do it this way. Period. End of story.
Yep.
Wild.
But people hear that, but they don't really understand that, I don't think. Like we say a lot of things. I think you talk about this all the time, is like memes are powerful, but you still have to kind of like play it out and really understand it, because even like everything divided by 2.1 quadrillion, like people hear that, they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. But like literally, that's why when we talk about fiat prices, like, will Bitcoin be $10 million, $100 million? It doesn't really matter how much fiat it's going to be. The only thing that really matters is how much you can buy with one Satoshi. And so when you have abundance, when you have increased technology, when you have increased productivity, and you have all these things out there, and those things are all being measured by this denominator that's fixed, 2.1 quadrillion sats. That means the more we create, the less it's actually going to be worth in those terms, right? So it doesn't matter if Bitcoin's $100 million, if a loaf of bread costs $5,000. That's why it's really important for people to differentiate between artificial price movement, where they print more units and your Bitcoin's worth more, versus real increase where more people are using the network. There's more demand for Bitcoin. More people are wanting to use Bitcoin. That's when the demand goes up. That's when the real increase happens, right? Because there's more people now fighting for that same amount of scarce units. So when I think about like what lending could look like, I really don't think it's going to look that different, honestly. And when we think about like, regardless what it is, whether it's a stable coin, whether it's a CBDC, whether it's a cryptocurrency that the government created, all of those things, or if we're still on a fiat standard somewhere, or even better, if a government actually decides that it wants to back its currency by something, that's still a unit. And all those units are going to continue to depreciate against Bitcoin. So how I'm thinking about this right now is like, there's Bitcoin and then there's everything else. It doesn't really matter what you're calling it. It doesn't really matter how you're transferring your value back and forth. And when I think about that, it's like, unless you have your Bitcoin in self-custody and you're holding your own private keys, everything else is just kind of fake.
Literally.
And so it really doesn't matter if you're going to the bank with your Bitcoin and getting dollars back, or you're getting stable coins back, or you're getting whatever back. That doesn't really matter. Those are all things that can be created more of by somebody. So those units are continuously going to depreciate over time against Bitcoin. So you have your Bitcoin in cold storage, you hold the private keys to that Bitcoin. Everything else is going to depreciate against that, because all those other things can be created by somebody else to infinity. Some will say that they're not, but it doesn't matter. It's still going to fall against those units that you're holding in self-custody. So it really doesn't matter, in my opinion here, what we're lending against, what we're using to buy and sell things with. As long as we have that asset that we can anchor back to, which is Bitcoin, that is fair, that is transparent, that cannot be faked, that cannot be debased, all those things are going to depreciate against that one thing, which is Bitcoin in self-custody and cold storage. Like, does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's what it will be moving forward. And it's just, humans are going to gravitate toward that system as they see this play out over time. It's just, again, it's just tough because it takes longer than we wished it would, and hoped it would. But again, it's only been 17 years, and this is where someone just mentioned Bitcoin faucets. I mean, yeah, like people are going to be charitable. There's going to be people that might do stuff like that, but this is a free market. This goes back to what Mike Green said, or asking about of, well, not everyone's going to get it. But this is the fairest way to get it. If people want to be charitable and put their Bitcoin out there, great. Guess what? When you're a Bitcoiner, you probably become more charitable because you just become wealthier and wealthier over time. And you're just like, yeah. And you start counting other things. I think this is the thing that's very tough. Robin had asked me this on the podcast the other day. He was like, what do you think? He's like, I think that, people might always kind of count money like as their status symbol or like as a scoreboard. And I actually don't agree with that. And I think over time, as Bitcoin changes you and you know community more, you off the hamster wheel. Because right now, in a world where the currency is escaping through your hands through inflation, the only way to measure your wealth or success is through the currency, because there's just more and more and more and more and more of it. That's the only way. And so when you invert the system on its head, when there's a fixed amount or actually an amount that's decreasing, in the sense that people are dying with their keys or whatever, donating it, like, a sailor has said he will, or people keys that are lost, that now again makes everyone wealthier over time. So when there's less units, you actually start counting things besides the units. You start counting the things that are actually important in life, that actually make you fulfilled, because that doesn't become the scoreboard anymore, because you're now so abundant. Things are so abundant. You have nuclear energy and thorium and all these different things. And that when every person has, I got to talk to Mike Hobart soon, actually. And I was talking to him the other day, and I haven't talked to him in a while. And his thing was, and he was like one of the guys years ago that wrote the Declaration of Monetary Independence, and great guy. And he was just like, when every human being has their own like energy output, basically, or own energy source, he's like, that's when you're gonna see things really take off. So he's like, we're obviously not close to that yet, but like we're gonna get there, somewhat in a timely matter. And when everyone has that ability to, whether it's, the Bitcoin mining, or, small modular nuclear reactors, or, Fediment style stuff, or you have like the town, SMR, stuff like that, that's where you're going to see just, and then people aren't caring. Again, you don't care how much money you have, because guess what? All your shit is free. All your like, everything is free, and that's where you start seeing like an Elon Musk, which I know many Bitcoiners, we've talked about this before, of there might not be money someday. This is why Elon Musk is autistic, right? Like, just like a lot of us, he's gone down these paths. Like, he understands. That's why he mentioned 6 months ago, yeah, there might not be money someday. Is that maybe our lifetimes? Yeah, probably not. But at some point, when things are so abundant and so free, are you really counting the currency units and you have? No, of course not, because you're living your life. Like, it's hard, like, it's hard to imagine, but someone has to imagine it. And I think that's the thing. I go back to the Peter Schiffs and the George Gammons and the Mike Greens. These guys, everyone's brain works differently. And I think a lot of Bitcoiners, our minds tend to be very visionary and very looking forward, forward looking, where a lot of those guys, they are very current day, present day minded, and again, I think that can hurt Bitcoiners at times. I think some of us get into fights and arguments and things like that, because we're arguing with people who have different time horizons. They focus maybe more on today, the George Gammons, Peter Schiffs, and looking back into history, and also what's the plumbing of today. God love them, they're all God's children. I don't hate them for it, but to me, pointless, completely pointless. Why would I understand the Fed plumbing and the architecture? Jeff Snyder, guys are whip smart. I mean, awesome guys. I would love to see them in the Bitcoin world, understanding the new world and where we're going and building, because they are so smart. I mean, they're so brilliant that I would love to see these guys in the Bitcoin world building the future, instead of looking at what are we doing? What is Jerome Powell saying? Like, very reactionary, very like, well, the guy in Ivory Tower is going to tell us what to do, and I'm going to learn all about it. It's like, well, guys, like, why? Just go build a new system. Like,
exactly. Why?
We need those guys. Like, we need Mike Green. We need George Gammon. We need Peter Schiff. We need Jeff Snyder. We need these guys building in the new world. So we'll get there.
Yeah, there's a couple things there. I do want to touch on like the losing keys aspect of this, because that was one of Mike's arguments. So I want to play through that. But the other thing too is, like, you talked about the energy and having abundant energy and measuring things, and we just kind of lose track of that. There's kind of two components to that. So obviously we talked about the system as it is right now not being fair. Wasn't a fair inception. It hasn't been fair at all. The people with the money printer essentially decide the winners and losers. That's how it is. That's the world that we live in right now. And they also control the energy too. Like that, I think that's one of the biggest lies we've been told, is that like energy is scarce, oil's scarce, all this stuff is scarce. Yes. That's bullshit.
Total bullshit.
They've used that as a control mechanism.
Everything. It's total bullshit. Yeah. Yep.
So it's one of those things where when you control the system, you control the mind, you control the ideas, you control all of it, right?
Yes.
And so even we're thinking through this is like, okay, well, in an abundant world where nobody needs to measure themselves with money because everybody has everything that they want, Like, okay, that sounds like a pretty good world to me, but yet we still have these people right now, and I associate with many of them, my friends, my family. You know, it's like, okay, if this happens, well, what about the jobs? What are
Yeah.
people going to do about jobs?
Yep.
And I'm like, do you realize what a job is? Like,
Yep.
we talk about like the slaves from back in the day, and there's many different types of slaves. You know, whatever
Yep.
heritage you come from, you were probably part of, you know, through your bloodline.
Yep.
But what were those? It was a contract to work for somebody else, right?
Yep.
And so that's where we are right now. And people are like so brainwashed into the system that they don't want that to end. They want
Yes.
jobs. They want to spend half their life, more than half their life, going
Wow.
and doing something that they don't want to do. That's how crazy, that's the point we've got to right now. It's like, well, what about jobs? What are people going to do to live? Well, you know, if we didn't have all these bloodsuckers and leeches stealing everything from us, we wouldn't need them.
Yep. Yep.
Right. And that's what people miss, is like, in a world where you have a finite supply of something and an abundant everything else,
Yep.
the price of those everything else comes down forever. So whatever you have right now, you don't have to just keep working and working and working harder and harder to just break even. Whatever you have is going to appreciate against everything else.
Yes. And you don't, you have work to do, and you will work because we're humans and we like to work, and we build and we tinker and we innovate, but you won't have a job.
Right.
That's the difference, right? Like, people, like you said, we're so brainwashed. We all are. And this is why, like, this whole talk has been like, it's very hard for even us for years looking into these things, thinking about lending, thinking about the future. This is why I do have empathy. And I know, you know, people in the chat here, you do, Jory. I mean, like, you have empathy because it does take time, and that you're thinking about this and things that haven't happened or haven't happened, you know, we just haven't seen it before. So it's very hard, but it's a work that will happen, but not jobs. And that's the big difference. You're not a job slave. You're not going to, I mean, look, what are the
Creating.
stats? Yeah, you're creating. Thank you. Exactly. Thank you. That's a way better way to say it. You're creating instead of going to a job that you hate, a job that you hate, which is vast majority of human beings. And that on surface, like, when you zoom out, does that make sense to anyone? Like, does it really make sense that, like, you're like, oh, I'm, you know, I'm gonna be a slave to this, or I'm gonna have this job or whatever? It's like, no, of course not. Like, we're God's highest form of creation. Like, do we really think that that's a way,
Exactly.
you know, naturally, like in nature, like how that's, no, of course not. Like, we've just created these abstract things, you know, nation states or whatever. You know, like, we've created these, you know, some guy came in, soft power versus abstract power, or you know, real power versus abstract power. And we're living that world, the, you know, software thesis in many ways of some guy comes in, Genghis Khan comes in, says, hey, this is what you're doing. And then people acquiesce. Well, guess what? Now your bloodline's doing that. Whatever your ancestors said, yeah, okay, agreed to. Well, there you go. So, and that's what's being ripped apart right now, and which is so intellectually hard to understand. Again, I don't claim to even understand all of it and know all of it either. It's just, we've tried to do work, you know, mentally. Again, anyone that's here right now, I know that you've put work and gone down these rabbit holes. There's no way you're listening to Jordan and I talk about this stuff if you haven't put work into it. That's why this is a great chat. But yeah, I mean, it's just, but again, how come there's, you know, whatever, you know, a dozen, 5, 10, 20, you know, 30, 50 people at a time watching this versus 5 million, like, again, it's a very small group of people that are actually looking far forward into the future and saying, hey, where are things going? Where's the puck headed? Where, you know, what's actually happening right now? Very few people, because we're not meant that. We have these JOBs. We go to school. We conform. We comply. Obey. It's why we started the talk this way, because I've been brainwashed for so long in this apparatus that I know no different. How does a frog know he's wet if he's been in the water his whole life, or a fish, right? So here we are.
Yeah, and I kind of want to tie this back. Like, how much longer do you have here, Brandon?
I got a little bit.
Okay,
you know, 15 minutes, something like that.
Okay, I want to tie this back because when you talked about lending with Mike, one of the points that he had was like, if people lose their private keys, what happens with that? And the standard answer, of course, which is what you said, is that those are lost Bitcoin. So now that denominator we've been talking about this whole show has become less. And when there's less, that means that everything else should be actually worth even less as well, right? So, but when we think this through, like in practice, what would happen with that? And so to me, there's a couple points I want to bring up with this, because I've been thinking about this, where the other point that Mike said is that people born in the future, they're not going to have the ability to accumulate as much Bitcoin as you can today. So number one, he's telling you like, okay, these things are going to be worth quite a bit, but I still disagree with you, right? So that was one paradox there. But the other part of it too was
That's such a good point.
yeah, when you think
That's the
about
sneaky
like
point. That's the sneaky point.
right. It's like
Yeah.
unless you really understand that, it's
Yes.
kind of like CoffeeZilla is like your worst enemy is you succeeding here.
Yes. Like,
So the point that I'm trying to say here is like even back in the day when I think about my ancestors, right? And they came over across the ocean to here, and I don't want to get into a debate with anybody about like who actually owned the land and who stole the land. Don't care. Point
all
is,
land is stolen.
all land is stolen. Exactly. So somebody came over here and they took the risk. Like that. This is how I think about this. They came over here and we're like, okay, we don't know what's over there for sure. Like, think about this. Put yourselves in this position hundreds or thousands or hundreds of years ago, we'll say. Hop on a boat. You're going across the ocean. Like, just imagine that. Like, most people don't imagine that.
No.
You're going across the ocean. This is when there's no, like, you know, medications. There's nothing. It's like you're probably going to die on this boat.
Yep.
But they took the risk. They hopped on the boat. They had no idea what was on the other side, but they knew that they needed to get out of where they were. Just like me, just like you, just like people in the chat here. We knew that we need to get out of where we were right now. Maybe not physically, but into a new system, into a new world. So we hopped on that boat. We had no idea what it was going to look like. We took the risk. So we got here and we got some Bitcoin for pretty cheap. Just like people back then, they came over, they got some land, they got townships. And then eventually, once people were like, once word reached back that they're like, okay, it's safe to come. We're starting to build things now. Come over. They came. It benefited everybody. But the people who took that risk first were benefited the most because that's how the world works. You take a risk, you get rewarded. You could die or you could get rewarded for it. And so when I think about this, I think that that's kind of going on this land analogy now. Townships, when there's nobody here, you could buy a township for like $5 because nobody's here.
Services, Jor, like oil, how
supply and demand, right?
Yeah, it's like my family didn't get to be an oil baron, and we can't now. Like I can't be an oil baron now. You know, like that's not fair, Mike.
Exactly.
You know,
but here's the point: is like so when that happened, you could buy a bunch of land for pretty much nothing. You could just put a flag in the ground. You know, it's yours. But eventually, more people showed up. More people came in, and kind of tying this back to the lost private keys here and lost Bitcoin, people showed up. And I think what Mike's stuck on is he thinks that there's only 21 million Bitcoin. Probably doesn't even know what a Satoshi is. But the other part of that too is like as more demand comes, then you can change that. You can change it from a township to a section, to a half section, to a quarter section, to an acre, and then a lot. And the exact same thing is going to happen with Bitcoin. We're going to go from a Bitcoin to a Satoshi, to a micro Satoshi, to a whatever. Yeah. But Bitcoin is infinitely divisible. And so it doesn't really, we don't need to make more units. We just need to move the unit of measurement. We need to further divide what we already have, the fixed amount, just like land.
Unit becomes worth more and more. Yeah,
exactly.
That's it. That alone is very hard for people to understand, Jor, which is pretty wild to me. I don't know. Like at first I think it's hard, but then like once you like think about it for a minute, that to me is just catches so many people. Like they don't understand the infinitely divisible. They think there's like that. Well, it's inflation. Like because again, it just shows like how like backwards we are and how brainwashed we've been, right? Where it's like, no, like just keep dividing it more, but they become worth more every time. That's crazy to me that we're still at a point where people don't understand that. But again, I'm gonna have empathy for people. We're still early. But again, and Mike too, just noting, he's this is where again another one of these areas where you could tell he hasn't fully gone down the extending things to their logical conclusion, doing all the homework. He's still thinking in fiat terms, right? He's still thinking of, well, people aren't going to be able to get the currency when it's all mined. Well,
exactly.
That's a fiat mindset. When
he doesn't think there's going to be enough units.
And he missed the talk we just had for 20 or 30 minutes of your life is getting cheaper in Bitcoin terms always. And this is the thing too. Again, I don't have a computer model. I'm not the climate czar WF Klaus Schwab guy over here with my fake computer model. But in my opinion, the last person on earth to get Bitcoin mined or worked for, whatever it is, they will still stand to benefit because as people accrue Bitcoin across society and ripples out, guess what's going to happen to society? It gets better and better and better and better. And the last guy in the system, which is completely opposite of fiat and completely opposite of Mike's worldview and so many people's worldview is that these people are homeless on the street. Also defeating his argument of, well, you need the 2% inflation to cattle prod, like the kind of Chicago monetarist school of inflation, to cattle prod people. And I told him in the interview, I'm like, Mike, there's people all over the streets. What you're telling me doesn't work. Like that doesn't, where's the cattle prod? Like the incentive
More than
of
there's ever
inflation,
been.
Exactly. There's people everywhere on the streets, more than there's ever been. And you're telling me that we need inflation? Like it's baked into capitalism somehow? Completely false, completely erroneous. It's such a terrible argument. And so now he's counting in fiat. He thinks you need inflation. And so it's just a completely upside down worldview that but unfortunately Mike's the norm, like that's the world we live in right now, where we all come from that world. We had to humble ourselves to get to Bitcoin. That's why I always say to people too, we didn't wake up, like none of us had a dream one day and just like, oh, Bitcoin's the answer. No, we had to put work in. You have to go through the gauntlet. I mean, Saylor talks about this, right? It's a need to know basis. You get burned somehow. You're screwing around with altcoins. You're gambling. Your business is going down like Saylor's was. That's partly, my story too, in a way. Like you're looking around your businesses, real estate, COVID's, affecting your business big time. And you're looking around, you're like, not only is it affecting my business, but then the things I was doing for 10 years, no one else could do it. I was looking around, I'm like, who have I actually helped? Well, you help them lenders, people that you raise money from them, or you help some tenants, obviously, stuff like that. But I'm like, everyone's getting crushed and no one's even going to do. Real estate to me is the best thing in the fiat system. It's the last thing into the water when the Titanic goes down. You get the tax advantages and the bonus depreciation and all these amazing things, right? I love real estate, but it's still in the fiat system and no one can do it because it takes so much time, experience, capital, education. And you're looking around, you're like, this ain't sustainable. Like, no, I might be able to do this. It's great for Brandon, but it's not great for the other 99% of society.
Exactly.
So, so anyway, there's just so many little nuggets right there that you just kind of like made me think of that spurred it on. But anyway.
Wow. Yeah. And when you said that even the last person to adopt Bitcoin is going to benefit from it, when people hear that, they're like, well, how? But I think the simplest way to think about it is because they can no longer be stolen from.
Yeah. Yep. That's pure.
Like it's really that simple.
Right. Don't overcomplicate it. Right. And that's it too, Jordan. I mean, like this is the whole school thing. I mean, so much of our talk today and I feel like it always does, but like so much of it just dovetails back into what we've been saying, but this goes back to the schooling of like overcomplicating things and think we need 8 subjects a day to learn and 12 years of it and 8. No, this is not hard. Like, again, we're God's highest form of creation. God, I don't believe, made life so only 1% of societies could succeed. That's just not, I don't believe that. Like, it's just, like you can be an 80 IQ pleb or 180 IQ. It doesn't matter. Like you still can succeed in this world if you use your genius. We've all been given genius. And I believe that too. We've all been given different geniuses, but when you try to ram the square peg into a round hole, putting every kid into the same system, the one size fits all system, well, guess what? That ain't going to end well. And then you got, 70% of the kids are like, well, they're dumb, they're remedial, they're autistic, whatever. It's like, well, are they? How do you know? How would you know?
Right.
And that's like, we're missing their genius. There's only, I literally think the stat is like 20 or 25% of kids learn best by, looking at a board and lecturing. The other 8 out of 10 kids, oh, well, you're dumb.
What a sin.
It's a sin. It's immoral. I mean, it's there to churn people out to the job, right? I mean, what we know at the end of the day is the Committee of 10 and the Prussian school system and all this conform. It was there to spit out, and train people, brainwash them, but also, hey, who's the best at taking orders and who's best at running my companies? And they didn't want competition. And here we are, like it, love it, hate it, fight me on it. I've done a lot of work just studying that too, just the history of the education system and where it comes from. And it ain't good. It ain't pretty.
No, but it's intentional. And I think the real thing for me is like, we called this sin, and it really is. But like, just imagine, we've talked about recording history, how different things would look right now if we had access to what they had when the pyramids were built, what technology we're using, that kind of stuff. Imagine what things would look like. But also imagine what things would look like if you actually looked at every human being as, a creator, or what did you call it? God's highest form of creation.
And like their genius, like what's each
genius. Exactly. Yeah. But because they can't memorize a textbook, they're told from a very early age that they're dumb.
Yep.
And that's what they believe.
Formative
that's
years.
That's their self-image for the rest of their life, is that they're dumb.
George, I know people, sorry to cut you off. This is really important because I know some family, I have extended family members who are geniuses, but they were told that they were dumb in school, got held back a year because they couldn't read when they were 6 or 7, and they were geniuses. Like their mind works in ways where I'm like, how the hell did you figure that out? Like just, and they're fine. Like have kids, have 3 kids, you know, there's 2 of them where they both have multiple children, totally fine, you know, like functioning member. But do they have some issues with anxiety now? Like, you know, here and there, things like that. Yeah. And guess what? They know it stems back from their childhood and being told they were dumb and like they had to be in remedial classes and things like that, and things they still are like trying to work through. Dude, it's wild. It truly is sin.
And how much human potential was wasted because of that?
Oh my gosh. That's why we don't have the Jetsons. I mean, you
Right.
think about like
For real.
the modern dark age we live in. It's sinister. It's a sin and it's sinister.
So
Truly.
they're called dumb because they can't memorize or they can't read or they can't do this, right?
Right when
And they
school
spend
wants
the
them
next
to.
30, 40, 50 years thinking like that. That's their world.
Wild.
And
Wild.
or somebody out there like has these big aspirations, but because the fiat system has robbed people of so much, because everything's so expensive, they can't do that because they need to eat.
Yes.
And so they go and do this bullshit job for 80% of their life. What could have been?
Yep.
If we didn't have these fiat problems, what could have been? How many people out there would have much different path? How much more would have been created in this world if they weren't forced to just go to work just so that they could eat?
Yep.
And the only reason why it's like that is because it's unfair, because of the money printer, because everything's getting more expensive, that people don't have time to think, they don't have time to create, and they just kind of waste their whole life. And that's really, you know, what a miracle of just being here. And it's just like people don't also realize how much of a miracle it is that not only are we here, but here during this time.
100%, dude. It's the other part too that I think is very important to mention is that like I come from, like I said earlier, a conservative libertarian background, more of a Mike Green. Like I was a lot more Mike Green, where I was just like, too bad, you know, sorry, like capitalism, bro, like work harder, capitalism harder. Like I was Mike, and that's why I empathize with him greatly. You know, my dad's that way, and I've become much softer over the last 10 years because of Bitcoin, meaning just more empathy. You know, I've also worked on myself in the sense of my faith and stuff like that as well. And I'm, you know, getting older too, and you're having more kids, but just softer in the sense of, okay, what are the real problems though, you know, and trying to have empathy. And what I think Bitcoin does, what I'm trying to get at though, is that like an Eric Cason, for instance. I've talked to many Bitcoiners who were, so like, if you looked 15 years ago, 17 years ago, when Occupy Wall Street and the Tea Party were out, I was a Tea Party guy. And there's a lot of Bitcoiners that I know that were Occupy Wall Street people. And I'm good friends with them. I'm close with them. I agree on 99% of things with them. Is there still a little bit? Yeah, of course. Like no human's going to agree on absolutely everything. But what Bitcoin does when you level the playing field, like we talked about earlier, and you mentioned, now it brings left and right. The political divides just start melting away organically. And you put all the consumers, producers on the same side of the table. It puts everyone on the same side of the table. That's the thing that almost never gets talked about, which I think is the number one most important thing that Bitcoin does for humanity. Like you said, kind of this lost generation, the lost world, the lost century, like all these, the modern dark age we're in, all created because of this sinisterness, pitting people against each other, dividing teacher versus student, all this, the state versus the individual, left versus right, red versus blue, gone with Bitcoin. That does not operate in that world, and it does not compute. And that to me is the biggest thing. So I've softened my stance a little bit because I recognize the error in my ways where you can't just capitalism harder. The system is broken. So the left was right. I realized there was numerous things that I had wrong, where the left was right in the sense where, you know, to me, where like 20 years ago, I would have said, well, the left is, you just got to work harder, like get up, you know, stop being effing lazy and get off your butt. Well, you know, like that's right and wrong, you know, like, yes, should you have to work harder, or like, is it better to become better all the time and try to grow and personal development, the things we talk about on Mondays here usually? Of course. But what the right does is they just look at everyone in broad brush people on the left and say, they're all just lazy purple hair freaks and none of them want to work and they just want to grift off the state. Well, okay. Yeah. Some of them might, but most of them, they don't. They would just want to be left alone too. They want a money that works for them, even though they don't know it. But like the right doesn't know that either. They don't know the money's broken either. So that's my point. Like politics only gets you so far, and then there's still a remaining 20, 30% that you just can't see. It's impossible. And that's where the Tea Party and Occupy Wall Street were two sides of the same coin. And they told you that you were at odds when you're really the same coin. And that's what's going back to the sinisterness. And that, to me, that's the most important thing by far. It changes everything, changes humanity.
Yeah. And when you think about how this kind of plays out, I think that kind of going back to what we were talking about before, where we don't believe that it should be fair, or not that everybody should have equal amounts. And that's kind of what you're saying here. That's the right side of things, right? And I do think that that's the case. Like if you imagine this scenario where everybody was reset to zero and you had airdrops coming into your wallet and everybody got, say, $5,000 a week. If you played that out for a year or two or 3 or 4 or 5, the producers, the creators, all of that value would flow towards them. And it would be the exact same as we have today, except the difference there is that nobody's stealing from you. So when you play that out further, even if that's the case, if you live in a world without money printing in the fiat system, even the people who aren't what we would call a producer or a creator today, you change all the incentives. You don't force those people to go to work doing something that they hate, wasting all that time. You don't call those people stupid from the age of 5. It might change. Like the people might actually change, right? Like somebody out there might be way more productive than I am. They probably would be, right?
Yep.
But they've just been, it's the fiat system that's told them that they aren't, that they have to go to work, that they have to spend the majority of their life, being stolen from and wasting their life. So I think that the transition will play out, but on the other side of it, I really do believe that we'll see more human flourishing, more creation, which is going to be amazing. And I really hope I'm around to see it.
Me too. The greatest trade you can make with AI, because you make me think of AI too, right? Because I know people will say AI, right? It's like, well, the greatest trade you can make in AI is not NVIDIA or whatever. It's Bitcoin.
Yes,
like
100%.
Being a Bitcoin holder, like I welcome all the AI. I welcome it all. I'm not scared of the jobs being gone. So it's like
100%,
right? And it's like, and again, we've been warning about this, and so it's like we've been saying this for 5-10 years. Like get Bitcoin. Like this is coming. Jeff Booth's book 6 years ago, 7 years ago. It's like we've been talking about this. Hello, and so it's like. Again, this is where the right and left, where like I feel I have empathy. The left tends to have a lot more empathy. The right tends to be more hard line of like, nope, get off your ass, son. Like go work. And so like I reside in the middle there of like seeing both sides now, and where it's like, guys, we've been saying this. Do I still want to help you? We're still going to keep educating, absolutely. But it's like we've been saying this, and now people are worried. I'm actually having a real conversation with people at church or wherever, and like they're scared. Like people are actually scared. And I've never seen anything like this before, really. Like, crazy things happen in history. Yeah. I've never seen people like there shootings or stuff going on. I've never had conversations with people like, no, like I'm pretty worried about like what's going forward, like jobs and stuff like that. I've never seen this. And so that right there, it just goes to show you again, start, let's do the homework. Let's do the work. Let's find out, what's happening. The scariest thing to me though, Jor, and I said this to Robin last week on his pod, is the UBI stuff, the UHI, all this garbage, which is weird with Elon. I don't know where Elon sits. I've never known where that guy sat. I've always been 50-50 with him. He's either the best guy in the world, or he's the worst guy in the world. I couldn't tell you, but it's weird because you have like, oh, it's gonna be great abundance 1 second, and the next second he's like, well, we need UBI and UHI. That to me is so detrimental, and it's so, again, that's when you limit the learning of human beings, because right in the moment where you could say, oh, you know what? We need to actually go learn about Bitcoin, or need to go learn about the scarcity and what's actually happening. You're just going to kick that can further down the road, and then you steal all the learning from these humans. You're just like, well, you need UBI. Well, that's just keeping the zoo animal in the cage even more. And kind of like what you mentioned earlier, again, like it just now they're in the cage, and now they don't know how to get out. When you feed the zoo animal, they can't defend for themselves.
But and also, what's the flip side though? Like that's the thing. That's the other part, because I do agree with you. But like, what's the flip side? Is just like everything gets so expensive where nobody can eat, nobody can afford to live. Everybody's at war with each other. Like that doesn't really sound like a great idea either. Also, another great argument to have Bitcoin, right? So all of us Bitcoiners 100% keep stacking your Bitcoin, right? Because what's the like you said, the flip side is they have to print exponential going forward. I mean, the 63 trillion by 2036 was what the U.S. government said. It was their prediction just in the last couple of months. I saw that chart and I brought it up, numerous different shows. It's going to be 100 trillion. Like that's conservative. That's what the government said it's going to be, right? And that's like what 40 or 50% increase from here.
And it's like, no, absolutely not. It's gonna be 100 trillion because they're gonna have to print so much flipping cash to paper over all of this, cancel student loans, UBI, all this thing. And again, that doesn't even account for black swans, for lockdown, more lockdowns, which will for sure come in the future, more wars, you name it, banks seizing up. So just AI alone, how much are you gonna have to print just to paper over and just try to like buoy people so then they don't learn? Dude, it's insane. So again, if you hold Bitcoin, yeah, you're gonna get massively wealthy. Your purchasing power will continue to go up. And I think my hope is that Bitcoiners get so wealthy going forward in the next, decade or so, 5, 10, 20 years, that we just start taking halls of power. Like you just start taking over the system basically with freedom cities, citadels, halls of power. We start buying more businesses, going back to Bitcoin lending. We start buying businesses and really taking over because I don't know any other way out. I don't see another way out unless it's really bad.
Yeah, but here's the thing for me is like when we're thinking about Elon, it's actually interesting you brought up Elon because last night somebody on my Twitter feed reposted a tweet from Elon, and I forget when it was from, but it said Bitcoin is my safe word from Elon.
Oh yeah, that was like years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago. Yeah. But so when you see that, like think about that. Bitcoin is my safe word. We've talked about lending, we've talked about expansion, we've talked about consuming, we've talked about all this stuff. And again, to me, it really goes back to like kind of tying everything together here is there's Bitcoin and self-custody, and then there's literally everything else.
Yeah.
Which includes UBI, UHI, whatever the hell it is. It's all ever since January 3rd, 2009, they no longer had the ability to fake things. It's all being remeasured right now in Bitcoin. And regardless of what comes next, it's all going to be remeasured by Bitcoin as well. Even though most people don't realize it, that's what's playing out right now. And so there's things that are going to depreciate faster against Bitcoin, which we've kind of seen, fiat being one of them. I think land overall would be the thing that depreciates the least, like land, cattle, things like that actually take time to grow and to create or scarcity. But Bitcoin and land are not the same. Bitcoin, you can send across the world for fractions of a dollar right now. Bitcoin, you can hop on an airplane with and take wherever you want to go. Bitcoin offers these unique aspects that even land doesn't have. Land is the second most scarcest thing. So that's just kind of like the theory for me is that everything, regardless of what everything looks like, is all going to be anchored back to Bitcoin in self-custody. And that's AI too. And you're 100% right. Because with AI, with tech improvements, everything's just going to be more and more abundant. And it's just going to be all repriced by Bitcoin. So if you're watching this, like most people here, I'm guessing hold Bitcoin already, but like, just understand that the key to your survival here for your future and your family's future is making sure that you have that Bitcoin and you have it well protected. Because everything else on top of that, whether it's Lightning or Liquid or anything else that somebody else has the ability to pull out from under you, is not real.
Yep.
And
100%.
With lending, then it's like it doesn't really matter what we're using for it. The whole thing is like, what is the system that we're lending with and against, and all this kind of stuff. So, what another show here, buddy.
I know, so good. The other thing, and I don't remember if we mentioned earlier about the lending part. And there's so many different aspects to touch on here. Obviously,
there is
with it. Obviously, this show we talked about so many different things today. The one part of it is that. Oh no, we did talk about the getting compressed. Okay, so that was I was thinking about why someone would lend in the future, because someone in here said that not good ideas to lend on Bitcoin in the future, stuff like that. And I think part of it's just game theory. Like again, this is where like you have the yin and yang between the perfect world utopia versus what are humans going to actually do in real life. Of course, humans are going to lend in the future. Like on a Bitcoin standard, if there's only Bitcoin, humans are going to lend. So game theoretically, just realistically, we have to acknowledge that's going to happen. But why would it happen? It would be that. It's just because, hey, just holding Bitcoin, it's getting 3, 6, 9, 10% a year. So there's going to be humans that say, hey, I want a 15% return. I want a 20% return. And there's going to be people that want to take that gamble, that risk, the trade-offs. Someone else said there's a trade-off, and that's what it is, right? Like everything in life is trade-offs. So trade-off of, hey, I think I can do this business. I can do it. And here we go. Let's go after it. But
I don't want to sell my Bitcoin.
Exactly. Exactly. So I think, again, these are the ways to work through it. Clearly, there's not. This is a very untapped subject overall. Just broad brushing, even in the Bitcoin community. This is not something that a ton of people have gone down these roads to like write about it a ton or think about it. And it's been done, but it's just it's in the future. So current events trump future trends. So it's not something that gets a ton of airtime.
Yeah.
But I think we're getting closer though, and so these talks I think just slowly have to come up more and more because we're getting closer and closer to a world where, who knows? I mean, it could be 8.5 years from now, and the iceberg flips gradually, then suddenly, and all of a sudden, people wait. That's where people always go, well, it can't happen to the dollar. There's no way. It's like, guys, how do you think hyperinflations happen? They happen from a loss of confidence in the currency. They don't happen like you printed too much. Because the government could print another quadrillion dollars, the U.S. government. But if people believe in it still, then it could keep going. But at some point, someone calls the bluff. They say, no more. I'm done. Finito. And then 1%, 3%, 5% of humans say, yeah, I'm not taking that anymore. That's how the repo market blew up in 2019. The banks went from like what, 0.1, 0.5% up to like 10% overnight because someone called someone's bluff and said, I don't think you're good for it. And that's what's going to happen. That'll happen to the US dollar at some point. And that's the thing that no one prices in. No one thinks about that.
I would also argue that it's already happened. Like, look at this. Like, this is a chart. Anybody can type this in right now, and you type in USD and Bitcoin terms. And what does it tell you right here? Like, look at this freaking chart for one. But like, Bitcoin, what does this tell you?
That's it, Jor. You're right.
100% down.
People calling the bluff. Yep. That's a speculative attack.
It's just
Bitcoin holders.
But people aren't looking at it through a Bitcoin lens, and that's kind of the whole point here. Right? Yep. It's like it
has to get to a saturation point. Yeah, we know, none of us know what that saturation point is, right?
Exactly.
And sorry, this is really interesting. So you and I just recently, I think, talked about this, or in the last week or so, this has come up, of at what point do humans really start getting Bitcoin? Or do they kind of like get on bended knee and say, I was wrong about Bitcoin type of thing, right? Is it 1 million? Is it 5, 10 million? Is it 20 million? Because you have to invert it though. And so that's the fiat way of looking at it. And that's how we all have to kind of talk about it. But really it's this chart. It's at what point, what saturation point do humans wake up and enough people, 1% of society, 2%, 3%, 4%, say, no, I'm not taking dollars anymore. I want Bitcoin. Boom, lights out. That's it. And we just don't know what Bitcoin to USD that is, or USD to Bitcoin that is. And so we talk about it in USD terms just because that's how everyone thinks about it. So is it 10 million? Is it 5 million? But it's really this chart right here.
Right. Because most people think that's actually a great point, Brandon, because it's like, most people, if they're going on Google, they'll type in Bitcoin in USD terms. That's the price of Bitcoin, right?
Yep.
But that's through a fiat lens.
Yep.
Whereas this one, it says the US dollar in Bitcoin terms, which means through a Bitcoin lens.
I don't even know how you got this pulled up, Jor, because I've been for like 4 or 5 years, I would do like a little report thing on my Substack, and I would actually put this chart up. And then for like the last year and a half, what did you have? USD? So like for some reason, like I've tried to search this now for a while. I'm like, dude, did they take this down? So I love that it's still up there because I couldn't find it. Like for a year and a half, like it was just like, and then I stopped.
It says 100% down.
Yeah. Dude, you got to screenshot that. You got to tweet that out. That's
like, it's just wild to me. Like that nobody really talks about this because everybody's like, well, when's fiat going to collapse? It's like, it already has. It's 100% down.
It's just unevenly distributed at this point, right? It's
just through the wrong lens.
Yes. So when we get to enough Bitcoiners, whether it's people thinking, oh, when it's 10 million, enough people are going to convert, or it's enough people have accumulated Bitcoin to a point where there's enough holders that have sold their dollars off, which is this chart we're looking at, and say, yeah, I'm out. That's it. It's just inverted graphs. Dude, that's amazing. Oh my gosh.
It's wild.
That's
the thing.
Wild.
When you said every currency before has gone through hyperinflation, so we're going to get there eventually. I'm like, man, we already have. It's just, it's all being masked by the system.
Yep.
The food's worse. Our society is worse. Everything is worse, but they're just masking it. Right.
Modern dark age. It's a modern dark age.
Through that lens, though, when you look at it through the fiat lens, it's like kind of still there. People are still accepting it, but when you look at it through
hologram
in Bitcoin terms,
there,
totally different. 100% down, gone,
man.
zero.
Dude, we might have to explore this next week potentially. We just like opened up a whole new portal into. It's funny because like these are all things that I know over in the chat, you and I have thought about this, but for some reason, I don't know why, it just like clicked in a different way today, which is the beauty of Bitcoin. Like you just find these new lenses, these new angles to like look at it or think or put things together, which is so cool. It's just never ending. But yeah, oh my gosh, like that is wild. Because we've all seen these. Like I've used this chart, right? And then we talk about, and then it's like, but oh my gosh, marrying them together though, and just being that saturation point of hyperinflation of what number do we need to get to for people, the currency collapses. That's the chart. It is the chart, but it was just flipped. Oh man.
Yep, exactly. And the key word there is in Bitcoin terms. Because in Bitcoin terms, to me, suggests that you're measuring the world through a Bitcoin lens. You're measuring things in sats essentially, right? But that's where people get tricked. They're like, well, Bitcoin's $80,000. It's $100,000. It's down. It's down, and we're down from an all-time high. It's like, no, we're not. Like it's already done its job. Ever since January 3rd, 2009, Bitcoin has been remeasuring the world, calling bullshit on the world. Yep. It's just that most people don't look at it in Bitcoin terms.
Yep. And at the end of the day, maybe the punchline of it all is people are going to sit here, not people here right now, right? But someone will come into this later and watch, or some, whatever. And they'll say, well, I don't know, it's going to zero or whatever. It's like, it's binary. It's either going to it's infinity or it's zero, and if after 17 years, it hasn't gone to zero at this point, there's probably a good chance it's not going to zero. And this goes back to the Satoshi, you probably should get some in case it catches on, because it is only binary. This is just like that. You're on a 10-hour trip across country in the train, or a 20-hour, whatever it is, a 30-hour trip. There, it goes, like you're just in, you're in the Midwest, whatever. You're in Saskatchewan right now. If you're going across Canada, you're in like Nebraska right now. You're just in the middle of the ride. Like that's it. It's not that the ride's done yet, but people just take it and say, well, you're in the middle of the country still. Like it didn't work. It's like, dude, I'm not done with my ride yet. Like I'm going from New York to LA. I'm going from, Montreal over to Victoria, BC, or Vancouver. It's not done yet. Like the ride's not done. You told me I'm not there yet, but it's not done. Oh man.
So here's a couple things here, Brandon. We got some zaps today from Joshua, some big ones anyways. Joshua, Letha, Mark, Maria.
Greatest chat in the space.
So big shout out to them. Every Monday, Brandon and I split the support donation sats for the show. But really, where I wanted to tie this together before we end today, because this has been an amazing chat today, just like they've been
every week. I don't know how we do it.
Yeah, this one seemed like we unlocked a couple things, or I did anyway. So it's that's what you want. Yep. But I think where people should look at is like when you're thinking about Bitcoin lending in the future. Again, you want the pristine capital. You want the thing that everything else is going down against. In Bitcoin terms, everything else, including land, is going to go down in Bitcoin terms. And you want to make sure you protect that into the future, because if you have that, that's your collateral. That's like your farmland that farmers lend against now. They don't sell their land when they want to buy a new truck. They go to the bank and they say, I want a new truck. Here, they're not going to part with 3 acres of their land to buy a truck. They use their land as collateral. And Bitcoiners all know that. But I think where Bitcoiners get lost is they wonder like what it's going to be. Is it going to be a stable coin, a CBDC, a this or that? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because everything else is going down in Bitcoin terms. So your purchasing power is going to go up forever. Some people might need to lend, some people might not. It doesn't matter. The point is that prices are going to fall in Bitcoin terms forever. So the purchasing power that you have today is going to increase, and you might have to pull some for the future at some point, just like a farmer has to do with his land, right? Without having to part with the asset. So it's really interesting, but I think the main takeaway for me is like, if you got Bitcoin in cold storage, the world's your oyster. You're going to be able to do whatever the hell you want. As long as you can hold on to it, as long as you can protect it in that system, in Bitcoin terms, everything's going to get cheaper for you over time.
Yep. That's it. What a talk. This is something that's definitely going to keep coming back around, the Bitcoin lending stuff. Like the whole talk we had today, it's amazing. Talk we had last week, amazing. Very different, also, just equally amazing. Man, just feel blessed, feel very grateful that we get to
amen.
Job. We get to do this.
Start the week right.
Start the week right.
Okay, well, we missed a lot of comments here, and again, we'll try to get better at it. It's just when we're having these conversations, it's really hard to just get derailed.
We do see
So
them. My bed, the bed is a mess. I just dumped all the laundry on there. So
what are you talking about?
I said the bed is a mess. Nav said bed's a mess. So we do see the comments. My point was we do see the comments. We do see all of them.
Yes. Yeah.
So thank you guys. Great, absolutely great chat. This is phenomenal
the one that I wanted to share here was from this one. It said, truly your Bitcoin will essentially become your bloodline in terms of wealth in the future. Yeah. If you listen to the chat today, what we just concluded there is that like literally everything else out there is abundant or going to depreciate against Bitcoin. And so if you can hold Bitcoin, if you can protect Bitcoin, your family's going to win, just like somebody who came over here hundreds of years ago and bought some townships. Like imagine if you could buy a township right now. That's the equivalent of like somebody holding one whole Bitcoin. And then you go down, you get 50 million sats. That's maybe 50 sections of land. It's the exact same thing because they can't print more land. They can't print more Bitcoin. If you can manage and protect it properly, just like farmers had to, your bloodline changes.
Bingo. That's it. A fun little thing to do too for people is if you're numbers inclined or something like that. I'd kind of just rough sketched out, but I was trying to do like 1913. So when the Fed came in, what was the price of like, what was gold USD then? Like, what was the conversion basically like on this a sound money standard to just see like in today's terms, what would that be? Or like how much? So everyone's seen the charts of like, oh, what was popcorn and a loaf of bread in 1971 and 19, whatever, all that stuff. So the rough calculation I had come up with, and this was just this was like a year ago, maybe even longer, 2 years ago, like some rudimentary, like a chat GPT back in the day. It was like, I got like 4 sats for a loaf of bread. So if you had converted, the same time period, but like sound money in 1913 versus now, like, and how many sats. So just, you had to do multiple conversions, obviously, to get there. But I was getting like 4 sats for like a loaf of bread. So it just give you like a window into, if you're paying more than 4 sats for a loaf of bread right now, you're overpaying. Now, that is what it is. Life is life. So it is, there's not much you can do about it right now, but it gives you a window into what will things look like in the future, potentially, like where you go to a world where things are just getting cheaper. What should the cost be if you're dividing things by 21 million type of, generally speaking. So just thought it was interesting.
It's super interesting because when you think about it this way too, is like 1913, if a loaf of bread was 4 sats and we kind of we took one path, we took the money printer where it just got more expensive. But
yes,
if you put us now where we are today, we're taking a different path where that 4 sats is actually going to be 3 sats and then 2 sats and then 1 sat. As time goes on, as sats become not more scarce, but as things become more abundant, I should say, as technology improves, as it becomes cheaper to make that bread, then it goes from 4 sats to 3 sats to 2 sats to 1 sat to 10 microsats.
Yeah.
We're going down that path.
Breaking it up. Yeah. Yep.
And it's very important for people to understand that, right?
So important. It's huge. So that can be something we talk about in the future too. We could do a whole show just on doing some conversions, numbers.
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting one, actually.
It would, because I've said it tons of times before, but like if you do very basic math, you come up with like the average house costing 1 million sats. But again, it's the same kind of thing. That's only if houses existed. That's based on current technology. That's based on everything. It'll go from 1 million sats to 500,000 sats to,
exactly.
Like that's the direction it's going.
Yes.
So yeah,
we'll have to do that.
Okay,
definitely.
Well, I'm going to wrap up the show here too, because I'm over time as well.
Yep.
So some days Brandon will show up a little bit later and leave a little bit earlier, but today we're wrapping things up. So big shout out once again to Joshua, to Letha, to Maria, and to a couple supports over on the Rumbles today. So great chat, Brandon. Any last words?
No, I mean, that's amazing chat. Always starting the week off here, bright and early on Mondays, getting things going. Amazing stuff, man. I can't wait for next week. We'll do some of these numbers shows and the spiritual stuff and the stuff we talked about today and the future. Because this is the fun stuff. Current events suck. I can't stand current events. And even my show, like my live stream, I'll probably do like 3:30, 4 o'clock on Mondays and Fridays as well. And I'll probably do some more stuff like this, kind of future forward-looking things. I can't stand future or current events. So doing some more of this stuff, future thinking, and that's it. We got Bitcast later. We got the BTC Mastermind tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern. We're doing that. Just another full week ahead, full slate ahead for the boys. George doing his live streams. It's gonna be a good week. We're
Heck
winning,
yeah.
guys. We're winning.
Heck yeah. Okay, so thanks everybody again. Thanks for showing up in the chat again. Unfortunately, we don't get to get through all the comments here on these days, but that's okay because I feel like the chats are worth it. So if we do see something in the chat that's we talk about after or during, but we'll try to keep the conversation flowing because it is you got to kind of stay in the zone when you really want to unlock things. Yeah.
Especially stuff like this. Again, I mean, everyone in the chat knows, I'm sure, understands too, because like when you're in those headspaces, like you're in the flow state, you have to kind of stay in it because it's hard. I mean, again, we acknowledge this how many times during the show. Like this is not easy. I empathize with everyone, right? All of them, Mike Greens, everyone. It's not easy. It takes brain power. So
keep showing up. Maybe we'll eventually, after a year of doing this, we'll maybe compile it all in AI and put together some crazy book of Brandon and Jor's prediction for the future, but we'll just keep chipping away. So
that'd be a wild book. 52 weeks of Jor, 2 hours of 52 times 2, so 104 hours of Jor and Brandon's ramblings. That would be like a psychedelic.
We should do that actually.
We should.
Just to see what it spits out.
Yes. That's a great idea.
I like that idea.
Great idea.
Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, chat.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.
See you guys.